Hello and welcome to FPL Malbo. My name is Andy and it's my transfer tips video ahead of Gameweek 10 for you today. I'm also going to have a little transfer tips section which is quite specific to my team, but if you find it useful then please do subscribe to the channel and give the video a like. Without further ado, let's jump straight into the video. So let's start off by taking a look at how I got on in Game Week 9, and it was pretty good, to be honest. 96 points all out. I would have actually hit the 100, but I took a hit. Anyone who watched my last video will know I said I was going to bring in Salah and Gordon for Sterling and Rashford. Sterling and Rashford both blanked, and Gordon and Salah got 3 goals between them. So that takes me up just inside the top 200k, still no chips used, so I'm really pleased with that. So to start off, Turner in goal was the only real disappointment. Well, 1 or 2 maybe. With Flecken getting a clean sheet on the bench, the plan was always to play Turner. I thought that was the highest clean sheet chance. I thought Flecken would probably play once I found out that he had appendicitis and didn't need his appendix taken out essentially and was fine. But yeah, I fancied that Nottingham Forest fixture. It didn't come through for me, so just 1 point there. Matty Cash created a few chances actually in that Villa game, but no returns from him, so just a 2-pointer. Kieran Trippier, another 10 points from him. He's been absolutely outstanding. He's one of the reasons my rank is where it is, to be honest. He was a little lucky with the assist, but I think if you keep creating chances, then that'll happen. Yeah, I'm not sure Murphy meant that finish, but we'll take the assist all the same. And Pedro Porro, 6 for a clean sheet. I watched that Tottenham game. He is so attacking that I feel like attacking returns are coming for him, but I can't really complain about another clean sheet. So 6 is decent. The midfield, I worked backwards. So Maddison was star of the show for me in that Tottenham game, even though it was Son who got a goal and assist. I thought Maddison was just excellent throughout. Had chances to score early on, but he took his goal really nicely. He creates so many chances. He's on free kicks, corners. He's the best player in that Spurs team, and that includes Son for me. Maybe not the best as an FPL asset because Son down the middle is the main goal scoring threat, but yeah, as a footballer, I love him. I think he's great. Anthony Gordon I brought in. It was a nice, smart finish from him for 8 points. Not expecting that every week. He's a bit of an enabler for me, but he's in a very good attack, and I think he's fairly nailed, so I'm hoping for some decent returns going forward. Saka with an assist. It was just nice to see him in the team, to be honest, back from injury. Don't really have too many worries about him going forward. In fact, I think a lot of people took him out on wildcard with Arsenal having some difficult fixtures and with his kind of injury doubt. So yeah, really happy to own him going forward. I think a lot of people will be scrambling to try and get him back in. Mohamed Salah, kind of wish I captained him, but I honestly saw that City against Brighton with the goals that Brighton have been conceding so far this season. It was a bit of a no-brainer captaincy decision for me, I guess. And yeah, got it wrong, but you still get Salah's 16 points. I can't be too disappointed with that. And the star of the show really was Mbeumo. He's been really disappointing the last few weeks. Brentford have been off the boil a bit as well. Yeah, goal and assist, absolutely superb. Delighted with that. It sounded like he played really well in that game as well. I sold Sterling last week after he just hauled. I'm not ruling out selling Mbeumo after he has just hauled and repeating that trick. But I'll go through that more on my transfer plans section. And then up front, yeah, goal apiece from the City boys. Alvarez could have had another. I think he hit the bar. Yeah, Haaland's finish was excellent. They went off the boil a bit second half, and that was slightly disappointing because I was really hoping that there might be some goals in that game and that those two could score big. But I certainly don't mind owning both of them going forward. I think there's lots of points to be had there. So yeah, 96 points, really pleased. Like I say, I've managed to not use a chip yet. I'm not planning on using it this week either. I'm going to hold the wild card. And yeah, I'm in a pretty decent spot. So I wanted to talk about Son and Ollie Watkins first up on my transfer tips section. They're very highly owned players, 35, 36%, both of them. Ollie Watkins is the highest scoring forward, averaging 7.6 points per match. Son is the second highest scoring midfielder, averaging 7.6 points per match. They're both excellent options. I don't have a clear way to get them. I just wanted to talk about whether I was going to really try and rip up my team to get there and what my kind of thoughts were with them. So Son, first of all, what's impressive is that he actually blanked in his first 3 game weeks. He was playing out on the left wing, and since that move, him centrally, Richarlison out on the left, it's worked really well. He's such a good option. He scored his goal against Fulham, kind of on the counter attack, really, and without a doubt, that's when he's most threatening. I think against really low blocks, that's where he struggles a little bit more. And although Fulham sat deep at times, they also, tried to play out from the back, got pressed a little bit, had players a little bit further forward. And when Son could get in behind, he was such a threat. Now, for me, I don't think he's essential for my team. And I think that's because I have Maddison. Now, Maddison, I think, is about 10 points behind Son. But I also bought Maddison at the start of the season. I think it's a much more difficult decision if you're buying in Maddison now, because the gap's closing between them. I think Maddison's gone up 0.6 million since the start of the season, something like that. And yeah, the closer that gap gets, I think the more you can argue that Son is the biggest threat. He's the goal scorer, whereas Maddison is more the creator. But I think I can cover his points. I think that, the money that I save off that is the reason that I could get someone like Trippier. And Maddison isn't underperforming Son by a ridiculous amount. Son is outperforming him a little, but it's only a smidge. So Son's someone I'm not looking at getting into my team. I think he's such a good option. But like I say, I'd have to kind of tear up my team structure to get him. And I don't think he's that essential that I need to. Now, Ollie Watkins is a different problem, I think, because you could argue that he is becoming pretty essential for our FPL teams at the moment. I did a wildcard video a couple of weeks ago, and it sort of came down to the fact that either I could get Alvarez and keep Trippier, or I'd have to downgrade Trippier probably to like a Dan Burn, someone like that, another Newcastle defender, and I would have Ollie Watkins up front. So I can't say it's been a disaster because I've had Trippier's points in that time, and he's been absolutely superb. I think he's got 6 assists in the last 5 games, something like that. But there is no doubt that Ollie Watkins is an absolutely fantastic option, and Villa's fixtures are as good as anyone's over the next 5. I mean, you can see the next 3 on screen there: Luton at home, Nottingham Forest away, and Fulham at home. I also argued that Diaby was as good an option, if not better, than Watkins because he's so much cheaper. They're both kind of playing up front together, but that's not really being proved true either. I think Diaby passes the eye test. He's looked excellent, but he hasn't really had the FPL returns in the last few weeks. So if I was going to tear up my squad structure and I was going to try and get one of the 2 in, then it's a no-brainer. It's Ollie Watkins for me. Now, I do have a way to get Ollie Watkins into my team. I mentioned when I was going through my team that I'm considering selling Burma. They've got really poor fixtures coming up, Brentford, and Burma has been off the boil until this week. He is still on penalties. I don't think he's a bad option at all, but he's certainly somebody that I'm prepared to sacrifice. Now, if I was to upgrade Alvarez to Ollie Watkins, then I would need a cheap enabler. And that for me is either selling Trippier, who's been superb for me, or it would be selling Mbeumo and bringing in a cheap enabler midfielder. Now, these are the 2 that I can afford that I would consider. Brighton, I really like the look of their fixtures, and I would love to have a Brighton attacker in my team. It's really difficult to know which one. All of the forwards in particular seem to be rotating a lot. But Adringa has started the last, I think, 4 or 5 games. I think he's got a couple of returns already this season. I think a goal and a couple of assists. And Solly March's injury means he's probably going to start on that right wing for Brighton more often than not. Now, the problem is I have absolutely no bench, and bringing in a player who is a rotation risk is a real high risk for me. I mean, Botman is likely to be back soon, so I'll at least have one playing bench player. But the other two, Bayer, I don't really want to come into my team anyway. And he's currently injured and there's an unknown return date. And then I've got a striker who's gone out on loan to the Championship. So that seems like a high risk. And also, his underlying numbers aren't absolutely superb. For comparison, they're about half of what Mitoma's are for kind of expected goals and assists. So I don't think you'd expect big points there anyway. So I think he's a really, really cheap option. I think he'll get a lot of minutes, and I think that he is in like one of the best attacks in the league. So kind of on paper looks really good, but I think it's too risky for me. I think if I was wildcarding, you could consider it because you could add some depth into your team. He could be somebody that maybe rotates with your third forward option, but for me, I think it's too risky. And then Cole Palmer, he's on penalties. His XG is exceptional, but there's 2 caveats to that. One is that, penalties massively influenced that. He's had 2 penalties in the last 3 weeks. And secondly, his data is off a very small amount of minutes. But I think he's now kind of fairly nailed, at least in the short term, in that Chelsea team, because they've looked so much better from an attacking point of view with him in it. I mean, against Arsenal, he basically started as a false 9. I think he will end up in that 10 role more often than not, potentially pushed out to the right, which is actually what I think his best position is. So to get a penalty taker for 5 million from a, decent Chelsea team, jury's still out on that a little, but it's fantastic. The problem is that I sold Sterling because Chelsea's fixtures are awful over the next few. I mean, Brentford, Tottenham and City in the next 3 is really tough. But after that, they just play all big hitters. I think they've got Newcastle, United, Liverpool. Their run at the start of the season was the easiest on paper. And now they're playing all the big boys, having had that easy run. So the temptation to pull up my squad structure to bring in Ollie Watkins is still there. I think Watkins looks so dangerous over the next sort of 3 or 4 game weeks with the fixtures that Villa have, but I don't think it's worth it for me to bring him in. I think I can cover those points or use my transfers in a better way. So it's still on the table, not completely written it off, but it's unlikely that I'll bring in either of those 2 players, even though I think they are decent options at parking prices. So the player that I'm really interested in, and it would be just a straight swap from Burmo, is Kaoru Mitoma. I think he's the best option in that Brighton attack. If you knew which one of like Ferguson or João Pedro or, Fati, which were going to start on a regular basis, then you can argue that they'd be a better option. But Mitoma doesn't have that much competition on the wings. Buonanotte we saw play a few times, but he seems to have disappeared a little bit. They've got Ciso, who's injured. Solly March is injured. Like they don't have... They sort of did have depth there, but they picked up a lot of injuries. We haven't really seen Fati be pushed out wide, but that's certainly an option for them as well. His points return has really dropped off over the last few weeks, but I think the caveat for that is that they've played Villa away, Liverpool at home and Man City away, and their fixtures moving forward, where you can see the next 3, Fulham at home, Everton away and Sheffield United at home. They're just fantastic fixtures, and I think Brighton are one of the best attacks in the league, whoever is starting up front for them. And so it's like chances of goals and assists, I think, are really high. His underlying numbers are still decent for the season. His points per match is still decent for the season. And I could see them getting considerably better. I think he'll outscore Mbeumo over the next 5 game weeks. And so I think it's a good transfer to make. It's just whether I can use that transfer better this week or not. So the other transfer that I'm really tempted by is to bring in Tsimikas from Liverpool. I think he's likely to be starting left back with Robertson's injury for Liverpool. Liverpool also have some absolutely fantastic fixtures coming up, hence why I was desperate to get Salah into my team. He's on a lot of corners and free kicks as well. He basically has taken over the kind of share that Robertson used to take. He's, I don't think, completely nailed. They've certainly got the option of playing like Joe Gomez over on the left. We saw him get pulled off after, I think, 62 minutes, something like that. So he just sneaked that clean sheet against Everton. Having said that, Liverpool were pushing. They were against 10 men, so they could afford to be a little bit more attacking. I think he's a fantastic option. He's such a cheap way into that Liverpool defence. Although I don't love the Liverpool defence in terms of kind of quality, I do think they concede the odd chance. The fixtures coming up, you can definitely see some clean sheets in there. And yeah, from free kicks and that sort of thing, you can see Tsimikas getting some potential assists as well. It would be Sven Botman that I'd be looking to bring him in for, simply because, I mean, I've already played 2 game weeks ago, I played with 10 players. Having no depth is an issue for me. I look at my team and I think, yeah, there's the possibility that Alvarez might get rested 1 week, or Gordon might get rested 1 week, or Trippier might get rested, and I just don't have the option. I don't have anybody else, so it's just no one. I play with 10 men if one of them doesn't play. Tsimikas, I think, would actually probably start in front of most of my team this week. It's a real tough one at who I'd drop if I put Tsimikas in. Mbeumo possibly away to Chelsea, but he's just had a goal and assist. Pedro Porro possibly away to Crystal Palace, but Crystal Palace are missing some of their best attacking assets, and Tottenham have just had a clean sheet. So yeah, it's really tough, but I think I would want Tsimikas in for that Nottingham Forest fixture. So I think if he comes in for Botman, then he will be straight into my team. I'll just have to decide who to drop for him. So this is how my team is shaping up for next week, having not made any transfers. I'm certainly going to wait to hear some press conferences. Botman on the FPL site, it says another couple of weeks, but if I was to hear that Botman was back in training, that would make a huge difference because I wouldn't need to add to my kind of squad depth. I mean, essentially, I think adding to that squad depth, bringing in another playing player is the sensible option. But I think bringing in Mitoma is the more kind of explosive option, because I could see him hauling over the next few weeks, whereas I can't really see him doing that again. Yeah, so I'll have to make a decision on that one. I think if I was committing to it now, I would probably bring in Tsimikas, and I'd probably bench Mbeumo against Chelsea. I think that Chelsea defence has looked decent so far. And I think Pedro Porro could get decent returns out of Crystal Palace. Matikash, I'm not dropping for, Luton at home, and Trippier is Trippier, so he's not going anywhere. Yeah, none of my other midfielders or attackers I'm looking at benching either. So yeah, most likely Tsimikas in for Sven Botman, and Mbeumo would drop to my bench. So there's some really good fixtures in there. There's also some tough ones. Certainly the goalkeeper situation is tough. I don't think it's worth me making a goalkeeper change. I don't think it'll make enough of a difference to my overall rank, but Flecken and Turner both have some tough fixtures coming up. I've gone Flecken in goal. I'd rather have keeper against the Chelsea attack than the Liverpool attack, but I don't really like the look of either of them. I've currently got the armband on Mo Salah. I think that's a real toss-up. I think that certainly Salah has the best fixtures, and he also has the home fixture, whereas Haaland is playing away. United's defence has looked creaky. It has looked creaky because of injuries. I'm a City fan, but I'm not going to lay into them too much. It's tough when you have like 5 defenders out. But the thought of Haaland playing potentially against Maguire and Johnny Evans, yeah, and he also he scored a hat-trick the last time he played at Old Trafford against United. Bod's probably going to be on Salah, but it's going to be quite a tough decision to make on that one as well. So that's my transfer tips video ahead of Game Week 10. If you enjoyed it or you found it useful, then please subscribe to the channel and like the video. Much appreciated when you do that. Let me know in the comments what you think of my potential transfers, which one I should look at doing, or maybe somebody who I have overlooked. And I'll be back next week with another video. Thanks for watching and see you there.